along with that, there's two options that the fire department can go with the fundraiser accounts. Like I said, there was no intent of ever taking their money and spending their money. The one thing that, as the village president, representing the taxpayers, the one thing I do expect is, since these accounts have been off book for at least 2 years or more, I want the village to do an internal audit on these accounts to make sure that all the money in there is from fundraisers, from donations. And I think after everybody looks at just the two papers that I gave you, I mean, I don't understand where this hoopla came up, where I'm trying to take the money away from the fire department. I had a loss for that. I think that if they would have just sat down and worked with the board, I think things would have been resolved. I have no idea what the issue is. And now, I guess what I'm going to do is, everybody's going to get a chance to ask a question, make a statement. I'm going to limit it to a few minutes, so everybody gets a chance to have their say. And direct your question to the person you want it. If you don't direct somebody, I'll answer it. But before I turn it over to the floor, I want to hear what the other board members have to say. What their thoughts are. So I guess Becky, you can go first. And tell me what you think.
Well, I guess I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I guess I understand and respect what Steve Chicoine said about all the municipal money having to be handled by the clerk, and I feel that we must go by that. But I also remember him saying at the meeting that he said that it wouldn't be a bad thing to wait until January 1st to work it out together, to iron it out, to find out whether they wanted to go 501c3 or whether they wanted to do the non-lapsing account, how they wanted to do it, as well as us working together with them. So I kind of felt better about that it didn't feel like we were going to rip it right out from under them, that we were going to give them a chance to work with us to get it into the appropriate place. So I guess my reaction since then has been that in regards to your asking for it immediately, is that I think that it was a good idea, a good suggestion by Chicoine to give them time to work through it and us to work through it with them, so it comes to a good place rather than it coming to this place where it is right now. That's my feeling.
To answer that, like I say, I know Chicoine did mention something about waiting till the end of the year, and the way I interpreted what he was saying was that they could change over to the 50C at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, as the new account.
Well,
by the letter that he is basically a summation of what he was saying at the meeting, it distinctly says that it's got to be turned over immediately. It's not at the first of the year. So
well, this letter was generated after you requested it immediately. So, but I don't want to go into, I don't want to be doing that. I just wanted, that was my opinion, and I think that I sat right next to Steve and heard him say that it wouldn't be a problem for us to start at January 1st with new books and do it to, work on getting to that point. So
as long as things were flowing the way they were flowing, he thought things were going pretty decently. And like he said that if we tried to work together and eased ourselves into this and worked together, that we wouldn't end up with what we've got tonight.
Well, unfortunately, I think things changed as of Tuesday afternoon when the fire department attempted to clean out the accounts that were a municipal account, even though it's a fundraiser amount. I got a call from the bank that they were attempting to withdraw all the money from the account.
I want to ask who attempted that, because my name's on that account, and Mr. President, I did not call them Tuesday and advise that. I've got my cell phone document here, and you can find that out. I want to know who then. I want to know who then from Bob Fate.
Will you let me speak?
Yes, sir.
Calm down. I will. I will find out from Bob Fate exactly who made the attempt to withdraw the funds.
Okay.
But somebody did make an attempt to withdraw the funds. And
Did they make an attempt, or did they inquire?
The bank refused to let them withdraw.
I did call the bank and ask the bank. This is what I asked the bank, and I called, matter of fact, the Lyndon branch here, okay? And what I asked them was about the account, if we had to withdraw any CDs, is what the comment was. Is there a penalty to withdraw the CD accounts? And that was it.
Well, I'll find out the facts from Bob. I got the call, and I was told that
Perfect.
that they were looking at taking the money out of the accounts.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's why I believe for the taxpayers, I mean for the village, that it's imperative that, you know, that the accounts be audited. You know, I think that, and you have to understand now with this, I'm not saying that they can't continue to withdraw money from the accounts. All they have to do is either turn the checkbook over to the clerk, or we'll get another checkbook. Either way, bring a receipt in. I realize that they've got this fundraiser for October coming up. I'm not withholding money from them. What I'm doing is preventing the accounts from being, my understanding was being drained out of the bank. They can still use the money as they want, but like I say, all they have to do is come to the clerk with a receipt, a check will be written out, and they can go on it the way. And once the accounts have been audited, if it comes back, you know, all this money is fundraiser money, donations, then they can do whichever version they want. They can do this agreement, put it in as an ordinance, a village ordinance, or they can go out and create their own nonprofit organization. I am not trying to stand in their way of spending their money. It's, if you can clearly read the fundraiser account agreement, it's solely up to the fire department what they spend their money on, when they spend their money on. The only conditions is it has to go through the village as long as it's in a village bank account, so that we have accountability for when we get audited. That's the, like I say, I don't know where this came up, that I'm trying to strip them of their money, refusing to give them. It's their money. I've never doubted it. I've never said anything different. So like I said, I don't know why it came to what it came to. I honestly don't.
Well, I think that some of it came from being so hasty about getting control of it. I mean, it just makes it look like you're trying to rip it out from under them. And I'm not trying to rip on you. I'm just saying that's what it appears to everybody. And as a part of this board and as a part of this community, I don't think that it makes us look good by trying to do that to our hard-working fire department.
Well, and I don't think it looks good for us to have a village attorney and not take what he tells us to do. I'm just following what the attorney said to do.
Doesn't this all lead back when you first took office, and there was a red flag to come up right away when you found out that the fire department was billing the interstate for calls, and you said at that time, and you can probably quote me on this, but I think you said at that time that money that they were billing out on the interstate was supposed to come back to the village.
It did.
And that's where this big red flag showed up to start with, right?
And like I said, the interstate calls, this money has nothing to do with the fundraiser account. The fundraiser account is exactly what it is, a fundraiser account and donations. It is not a billing of services provided to non-taxpayers out on the interstate.
Those interstate calls, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the income from that went to the general fund anyhow. It never went into your fundraiser account, ever.
Well,
Ever. I'm just clarifying that for Earl, because Earl's asking about it being a part of the fundraising. I'm clarifying that for Earl.
The only thing that ever went into the fundraiser account, which when we first started writing FEMA grants to the AFG, the Homeland Security, for turnout gear, for vehicles and the air packs, we agreed with the board back then, when we started this back in 2002, to put that money, if we were awarded, into the fundraiser account, to make it a lot easier for the line item for the ins and the outs. And that's why the account was audited the last 2 years. So the fundraiser account has been audited. So why should we pay again to have it
We're not
re-audited?
paying to have it. It's going to be an internal
So-
audit.
Okay, great. Earl, do you have any questions? Because I've got some stuff that I would like at least answer too.
No, I guess I'm good for right now.
I have one more quick thing for you.
Perfect.
My other concern was that these decisions were made solely by you and not voted on as a board between the three of us, to make decisions about requesting the money at a certain date, and also about freezing the accounts and things like that. I think those are things that should have been discussed as a board and then motioned and voted on.
So I understand that the wanting the accounts turned over was again a response to the village attorney.
Well, then, we should have had an emergency meeting, and we should have been contacted. It shouldn't have been acted on solely by you.
The way he explained it, because it wasn't legal the way they were doing it, why would you make a motion to either make it legal or keep it illegal?
I think there's a lot of things that we could have worked on together.
Well, I'm answering your question. The reason I asked for it immediately is because the attorney said there's no reason to do motions on it because it's illegal. It's illegal for them to have the accounts the way they have them.
So then it was still not necessary for you to notify Earl or I? You just went and made the, you made those without us
I
knowing.
gave you, at the meeting, I gave you a copy of this. And that's when I asked to have the accounts turned over to us.
No, there was an email that was sent out earlier than that about asking for the accounts by July 21st.
That's correct, because I talked to the attorney. I've talked to the attorney 3 times on this matter. I talked to him, I came back and relayed the information to the board, and that's when I asked for the accounts. I went back to the attorney, I had the attorney come to the meeting to explain it to everybody, and it still didn't get explained. Then I went back to the attorney to do a summation letter, which I brought to the next meeting, and I asked for the accounts again. All I was doing was relaying what the attorney said 3 different times, where we spent three times the money with the attorney fees for something I think should have been solved right away. If all that's in the fundraiser account...
Well, I also think that if you would have called a meeting with us and we talked about it, maybe you might not have had to go to the attorney 3 times.
I did call a meeting, because I brought it up at the meeting after I went to the attorney about the first time I requested the accounts.
Not in a way that we could discuss how to work with the fire department. It was only about demanding the accounts from them, not in a way to work with them.
I didn't demand, I asked them to turn over the accounts, because it was illegal.
Well, I disagree, but okay, I'm done.